Hello, Big Reds. This is Mr. Fischel talking. This is Learning Target 6, which is I can identify and find the measure of the angle pairs formed by intersecting lines and parallel lines in a transversal. It includes alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, corresponding angles, linear pair, consecutive interior angles, and vertical angles. So you should be able to identify those types of angles from the previous video, and you should be able to measure with a protractor from the video before this as well. So your success criteria, what you should be able to do at the end of this video is be able to identify the properties of the 6 angle pairs. So that tells me, what's special about those angle pairs. All right, first of all, I'm going to start off with a ruler, or straight edge, as I called it before. And I'm going to make 2 parallel lines. I'm just going to make them on the edge of the ruler, just like this. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. Put arrows because they keep going, and I'm going to put little triangles on them because they are parallel to each other. Now I'm going to make a transversal cut across this. Remember, this is called a transversal, 2 parallel lines and transversal. We have a bunch of angle pairs. I'm going to number them like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so hopefully just a quick review. 1 and 5 and 4 and 8 are outside the 2 parallel lines. So 1 and 5, 4 and 8 are alternate exterior angles. Inside 2 and 6, 3 and 7, those are alternate interior angles. Again, alternate interior angles 2 and 6, 3 and 7. Consecutive interior angles would be 2 and 3, 6 and 7, because there's nothing between them. 2 and 3, 6 and 7. All right? And corresponding angles are in the same position. So like bottom, look at this group of angles, this group of angles. Bottom left, 4 and 2 are corresponding, 3 and 1, 5 and 7, and 6 and 8. And of course you have your vertical angles that are across from each other. 1 and 7, 2 and 8 are vertical. 3 and 5 and 4 and 6 are vertical. And linear pair angles adjacent or next to each other. 7 and 8, 2 and 7, 1 and 2, 1 and 8, 3 and 6, 6 and 5, 4 and 5, or 3 and 4. Okay, and remember, those angles are along a line. So what we want to do today, again with our success criteria, is be able to identify properties of the 6 angle pairs. All right, so first I'm going to have to get out my protractor, and we're going to do some measuring and find out the properties here. So I'm going to go through and measure the angles. Remember, first I put the center of my protractor here, line this line up with this parallel line, and I want to go around to my transversal. And I go up around 10, 20, 30, 40, all the way to, it looks like it's at about 131 degrees. Okay? Now, I'm also going to measure angle 8 at the same time. I can measure angle 8 starting right here at 0, and I'm going to use the inside one. 10, 20, 30, 40, looks like it's about 49 degrees. So I measured 2 angles at the same time. This was 131, this one was 49. So I'm just going to write that in there. 131 degrees, 49 degrees. Okay? Now, your angles may be a little different depending on how you measured. Or, I'm sorry, not how you measured, but yeah, how you measured and how you drew your lines. That makes a difference. Okay? All right. I'm going to flip this paper over. And let's measure these 2 angles over here, 4 and 5. Okay? So if you look at angle 5, starts at 0, goes around, looks like it's about 131 degrees. Angle 4 starts here, looks like it's about 49 degrees. So turn around again, right side up, 131 degrees, 49 degrees. Okay, now let's measure 3 and 6. We'll start with the center of the protractor right above the vertex of those angles. All right, try to do it as best I can. Okay, you can see angle 3 starts here, goes up around, it's about 131 degrees. Angle 3 was 131 degrees. Angle 6 starts here, goes up, it's about 49 degrees. Hopefully you're seeing a little bit of a pattern here. Okay, and I'm going to flip over my paper again and measure 2 and 7. And if you probably guessed, oops, we get about 131 and 49 degrees again. Or angle 7, 131 degrees, and angle 2 is 49 degrees. Now, if you notice, if these lines are parallel, and I'm going to zoom up just a little bit, if these lines are parallel right here, these two lines going across here, and that transversal intersects parallel lines, these special angles have a property, okay? So we're going to write down what those properties are. Ooh. All right, we'll start with alternate exterior angles. I'm going to abbreviate it like that, alternate exterior angles. That way we don't have to write so much, okay? So those were, remember, on the outside, 1 and 5 and 4 and 8. So we're going to see what special properties they have. Angle 1 and 5 are both 131 degrees. Angle 4 and 8 are both 49 degrees. So what do you notice about those two angle pairs? Well, if they're alternate exterior angles, the angles are always congruent. Congruent means they're the same measure. That means they're the same degrees. So alternate exterior angles, when the lines are parallel, that's important. When the lines are parallel, the alternate exterior angles are congruent. Congruent means the same measure. Okay? So, that means angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. This means congruent to. And angle 4 is congruent to angle 8. And again, this means, this right here means congruent. All right? All right, let's check out our alternate interior angles. What do we know about them when the lines are parallel? All right, so let's look. We have 2 and 6 and 3 and 7. 2 and 6 are both 49, 3 and 7 are both 131. So it looks like they are also congruent. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. And angle 3 is congruent to angle 7. All right, so we've got 2 of the angle pairs out of the way. 4 more to go, right? All right, let's try corresponding. Remember, those angles are in the same position. So top left, bottom right, or bottom left, top right, and bottom right. Okay, so we're looking here. 1 and 3, they're both the same. 2 and 4 are the same. 6 and 8 are the same, and 5 and 7 are the same. They're all congruent. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 4. Angle 5 is congruent to angle 7. And angle 6 is congruent to angle 8. All right, one pair with when the parallel lines that we didn't talk about anyway is consecutive interior. Consecutive interior angles. Oh, those are a little different. Those are inside, like 2 and 3, and 6 and 7 are consecutive interior. Now these are definitely not congruent, right? 49, 131, but they do have a relationship. Now think about this. I took 131 and I added 49 to it. That's what these two are. 9 and 1, 0, carry the 1. They add up to 180 degrees. And that means they are supplementary. Supplementary means that two angles add up to 180 degrees. So we're going to call these supplementary. They're adding up. Supplementary, like supper. You're having a big supper, adding together, getting a big 180 degrees. Okay, so that means the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 is 180 degrees. And the measure of angle 6 plus the measure of angle 7 equals 180 degrees. This is how we write the measure of angle with the M angle. Okay. All right, so we've done our success criteria. Let's go back to that, was be able to identify properties of the 6 angle pairs. Well, we have properties of 4 of these. Now we have 2 more. We have vertical angles and a linear pair. Remember, vertical angles are across from each other. 1, 7, 2 and 8, 3 and 5, and 4 and 6. So these are all going to be the same. They're going to be congruent. Whereas a linear pair, they're next to each other. And you can see all the angles that are next to each other are all supplementary. Okay, now here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to get up from your chair. If you're listening, because I want to test your listening skills today, get up from your chair and go up and give Mr. Fischel a high five, okay? If you're listening, and this will give you credit for watching the video. So please give Mr. Fischel, stop the video, give Mr. Fischel a high five, then come back, resume the video. All right. Okay, good. One last thing I was going to do with you. So we have to know the properties of these angles. I'm going to draw 2 more lines that happen to be parallel and transversal. Now the cool thing about it is if these lines are indeed parallel, if I know one angle, I can pretty much figure out all the other 8 angles. So let's measure this angle, and it looks like, I'm just going to round it just to make it easier on you. I'm going to say it's 130 degrees. All right, let's see if we can fill out other angles. Okay, well I know this one and this angle, these are both alternate exterior angles. They're on the outside. And we know alternate exterior angles are congruent, right? So that means this has got to be 130 degrees as well. Okay, next. Well, I also know that corresponding angles are congruent, and these two are corresponding, so this is 130 degrees. Right. I know consecutive interior angles are supplementary, so if I take 180 minus 130, that gives me 50. So this has to be 50 degrees. You can see these two are alternate interior angles, and they're congruent, so this must be 50. These two are vertical angles, and they're congruent, so this has got to be 50. These two are a linear pair, so they add up to 180, so this is going to be 50. And these two are consecutive interior angles, so I could take 180 minus 50, it gives me 130. So all these angles are either equal or they're supplementary. All right. So hopefully you know the properties, going back to our success criteria. Be able to identify the properties of 6 angle pairs. So now we know vertical angles are congruent, linear pair are supplementary. Alternate exterior angles are congruent, alternate interior angles are congruent, corresponding angles are congruent, and consecutive interior angles are supplementary. And remember, that only happens when the lines are parallel. That has to be the case. These two would have to be parallel in order for these to happen. The vertical angles in linear pair will happen all the time. The lines have to be parallel. Thanks for watching, and go Big Reds.